Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a fun Great League team that I climbed up to 2719 ELO with, which at the time of recording would be about top 20 to top 25 ranked battlers in the entire world. This team is built around Shadow Magnezone. I think Shadow Magnezone has the potential to be an interesting anti-meta pick due to the rise of Pokemon like Shadow Scizor and Araquanid that both really do not like Magnezone. Now to cover for Magnezone's extreme weakness to ground, I have Shadow Gligar as my safe switch and Araquanid as my closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And in game number 1, we're off to a great start, Shadow Magnezone versus Golisopod. Golisopod is staying in this matchup, so it appears that my opponent has something in the back that is not a fan of Magnezone either. I'm going to fire off the Mirror Shot here. These Volt Switches are absolutely deleting this poor Golisopod. I do get the debuff, but realistically, the debuff is not going to matter much in this matchup. I can fire off Mirror Shot number 2, and my opponent will be forced to double shield if they want their last Aqua Jet. They are going to do just that, and I'm more than happy just to shield and win alignment. I'm going to get a Wild Charge into whatever they send in here. They send in Diggersby. I can't Wild Charge that, so I'm actually going to bank a Wild Charge for later and save switch into the Shadow Gligar. This is a win-win situation for me. Either my opponent stays in and uses all their energy on Gligar instead of on the Magnezone, or if they pivot out, then it'll end up on its hard counter, which is Araquanid in the back. It appears they're staying in and playing this out, and that is very okay by me. They go for the Fire Punch. Gligar can't quite get to the dig, so I will get knocked out. But the nice thing here is the switch clock has been burned, so now I can send in Araquanid. Diggersby farming up a ton of energy here. In the back is Bastiodon. I bank the Bubble Beam for later and send in Magnezone. Magnezone is able to make it to the back-to-back Shadow Wild Charges. Wild Charge number 1, big damage, and I get Wild Charge number 2. This will not knock out the Bastiodon, but I'm hoping it will put it into Bubble Beam range. This is a charge attack priority tie. Can Bubble Beam knock out here? No, Bastiodon with the 1 HP survive. It hangs on and will get to connect with a debuff Stone Edge. I will get the Bug Bite farm down. In comes the Diggersby, and even though my opponent survived on 1 HP to make that last second move, they're still not going to be able to take home this win, as they would need 3 Fire Punches. That's how bulky Araquanid is. Even after taking all this damage, Araquanid tanks 2 Fire Punches, fires off the Bubble Beam. The last Bubble Beam did not pick up a knockout. This one will, and we take the game 1 win. Hopping into game number 2, and it's a dominant lead win. Shadow Magnezone into Shadow Scizor. We double resist Bullet Punches. Opponent save switches into Dusclops. And playing this team for quite a few sets today, I learned that this team is very soft to Dusclops. I have 2 bug fast moves in the back, which means I don't really have fast move pressure into the Mon. And my Shadow Magnezone actually takes a ton of damage from Shadow Punch. Here, I'm going to tank 1, shield 1, and fire off the back-to-back Wild Charges. If my opponent double shields, they'll win switch, but then their Scizor will be shieldless, which means I can just knock it out with a move from Gligar. They decide to let the Dusclops go down and bring back in the Scizor, but that's not my only Scizor counter. I have Araquanid. Each Bug Bite does 3 damage per Bug Bite to this Scizor, so even though it's a resisted fast move, it definitely does not look like it. This poor Scizor getting torn to shreds by the Bug Bites. I fire off my last second Bubble Beam. They will commit the shield. That does make me think that something in the back does not want to see the Araquanid, so I will invest my final shield here. In the back, oh, that's kind of just the perfect Pokemon for my backline to see. Even if my opponent had double shielded for switch, they were still just going to lose to the Gligar, because Gligar completely destroys Clodsire, and my opponent will immediately resign the match. We move to the next match. Very tough opponent, Zweilous, but a good lead, Magnezone into Greninja. Greninja banks some energy, out comes Galarian Corsola, and these ghost types are proving to be problematic. I farm up a ton of energy, firing off the Mirror Shot bait, and they call the bait. Oh, that is absolutely devastating for me. I am going to commit the shield. I have so much energy on this Magnezone. I farm up even more, and now I'm at 2 more Mirror Shots. This Mirror Shot is still going to be no-shielded. Oh my goodness, Zweilous, the bait calls have me in absolute shambles. I'm able to pick up the knockout, but now I have no energy on the Magnezone. I just get farmed down by Greninja. In comes Araquanid. Araquanid obviously going to do amazingly into Greninja, but my goodness, this has not gone well. Greninja, its health getting rapidly deleted by these Bug Bites. They're firing off Night Slash number 2. In the back is Shadow Scizor, and this should always be a game that I win. But unfortunately, I ended up baiting too much and he called it. I feel that in a lot of scenarios, it's really difficult for people to no-shield moves from Magnezone, so that's why I was having good results with baits. But Zweilous, he's easily one of the best battlers in the world, and we see it here. He correctly identifies that if I'm staying in, there's a problem, and I'm probably going to try and bait to get ahead. I need to get that aerial ace, and I cannot get there. And at this point, there's just no win con, so I'm just going to let my Araquanid get KO'd. And unfortunately, that was a very winnable game that slipped away from me. We move to the next match, Shadow Magnezone versus Lapras. This is an unbelievably good lead, but after just playing Zweilous, I really don't want to have a bait called, so I'm just going to full send the wild charge here, put some pressure on my opponent, but as with most people, they're going to respect the move from Magnezone. Magnezone just hits much too hard. They're going to fire off a Sparkling Aria, staying in this matchup. Maybe I could have gone for a potential mirror shot there, but I wasn't quite sure it would knock out. They end up catching onto Clodsire, but watch this. I'm actually going to re-bank a wild charge for later, and now I can send in the Shadow Gligar. Even if they have Stone Edge does not two-shot here. So I'm very comfortable giving the Clodsire a very healthy energy head start, because my Gligar does a very good job at neutralizing that energy. So they fire off yet another Stone Edge. I'm farming up a ton with the Gligar. I know that Dig, obviously it has been nerfed in previous seasons. It's not nearly as good as it once was. In comes Lapras, and I make a last-second Aerial Ace. This Aerial Ace is going to be enough to knock out the Lapras. I still have the move loaded on the Magnezone, and that move is probably a delete button to whatever my opponent has in the back. But first, they're just going to bring back in the Clodsire. Clodsire now going to be answered with the Araquanid. I know they do have Stone Edge, but Stone Edge does not get same type attack bonus, so Araquanid actually tanks that very, very comfortably. Araquanid can just continue to farm more and more energy, getting ever closer to that Water Pulse. Stone Edge is going to be shielded. I really don't want them to save the Clodsire, so I will fire off the Water Pulse, and they will get KO'd. In the back, my opponent has, it is going to be a ghost type, but it's not the Dusclops. It's going to be Galarian Corsola. And Galarian Corsola is about to get ruthlessly combo played, Water Pulse into the Shadow Wild Charge. My opponent threw the move predicting to switch in, but Magnezone's going to win that charge attack priority type by a mile. Down goes Corsola, and we take the win. Nightmare leads Shadow Magnezone versus Clodsire, but I'm not switching out. Instead, why would I not use this as an opportunity to get a ton of energy before I switch? My opponent pivots into Golisopod as their answer to my Shadow Gligar save switch, and just like that, I'm gonna flip switch in this game. My opponent no longer can control what happens in this mid game. We have identical pacing, but I'm up energy. They no shield, hoping to make another move, but they just get farmed down. In the back, they have a Shadow Primeape, so they're running very, very strong to the Shadow Magnezone. But Shadow Magnezone energy is still going to go very far. And just like that, the Primeape is going to go from 2 shields to 0 in a split second here. Opponent now going to switch into the Clodsire. They've saved energy on the Primeape for later, but I still have so much loaded energy on my Shadow Magnezone. They are going to fire off a Sludge Bomb, so they don't even have Stone Edge on the Clodsire. I will shield up the Gligar just because landing this dig is very, very valuable damage onto the Clodsire. So Clodsire just took way too much damage there. I predict when they fire off the Sludge Bomb, and we end up getting the catch onto Araquanid. Araquanid very happy to be in this matchup in basically all scenarios, but the fact that they don't have Stone Edge just makes it so much better. I should just be able to fully Bug Bite down here. They go for the Sludge Bomb, and my opponent realizes there's just no way they're winning this game, so they will resign the match. Shadow Magnezone versus Greninja. Is this going to be the Zweilous team? And it is. They save switch a Galarian Corsola. I'm forced to stay in this matchup as the Magnezone for now, but I think that my error previously was I ended up baiting. So here, I can't really ever throw an amazing timing in this matchup, so I will fire off the Wild Charge. Wild Charge is going to be shielded, and now I have actually done enough damage with the Volt Switches that I can bring in Gligar. I think this was my mistake last game, not just the fact that I baited too much, but I should have brought Gligar into Corsola, because that way, I find a use for the Gligar. Gligar fires off the dig, it KOs the Corsola, and Shadow Gligar is going to be a bit of a nuisance to get rid of here. They bring back in the Greninja. These Fury Cutters add up quite significantly. I get to fire off Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace is going to land. There's the switch into Shadow Scizor, and it is a trainer running the Zweilous team. But I may lose to a team once, but I pride myself in my ability to figure out the win con. If I threw a game, how did I throw it, and how can I make an adjustment so that doesn't happen in the future? Now this game is just completely over. There's realistically no set of plays in which my opponent can win this. They are going to be boosted now thanks to that Trailblaze, and they fire off the Night Slash. I'm going to throw 3 and then fire off the Water Pulse. Opponent actually CMP sack swaps. What a beautiful play from my opponent. But the unfortunate thing here is I'm so far ahead with the Araquanid that CMP sack doesn't even help them win this game, because Shadow Scizor would need to farm down, and Araquanid is just too much of a monster. We farm down the Scizor, and we now move to 3-0 in the set. And what a lead. Leading the Shadow Magnezone into an opposing Araquanid. They save switch into Shadow Drapion, and look at these Volt switches. My goodness. Drapion full sends the Crunch, hoping for a no shield. They do get a Crunch debuff. That is a very low chance to occur. I build up to the Mirror Shot plus Wild Charge. I full send the Wild Charge. It ends up being shielded. At this point, I'm kind of only throwing the nuke moves just because of that game against Zweilous, where I was so punished for baiting. But as you see in the vast majority of games, people are going to respect the moves from Magnezone. So I really feel that in most scenarios that isn't the game against Zweilous, baiting with Zone is often the way to go. My opponent sends in Unova Stunfisk as their final Pokemon. This is a huge problem Pokemon for this team, but I'm able to land a Water Pulse, which does big damage. Discharge is a truly terrible move, so my opponent is forced to throw twice. Araquanid is so bulky and Discharge very mediocre, and now I can just win this game by fully Fury Cuttering down with the Shadow Gligar. There's just no counterplay at this point. Shadow Gligar will be able to get a full farm down, exiting with way too much energy. They get to bring in Araquanid. I bank a ton of energy. I send in the Magnezone, and they're forced to fire off a Water Pulse. So I always no shield here. I have a ton of energy on the Gligar. I also still have my shield intact. I can farm up just shy of 100 energy, and the combination of the Fury Cutters, the Volt switches, should allow me to get a Fury Cutter farm down, and I just have back-to-back moves on the Gligar, so it doesn't matter what they send in. I no longer even have to take a look at the top right to see the typing of what gets brought in here, because everything is getting knocked out by the Aerial Ace. So Aerial Ace will KO the Drapion, in comes Unova Stunfisk, and we defeat the problem Pokemon and get the win. And now for the 5-0 set, Shadow Magnezone into Diggersby. Same game plan as before against the Clodsire. I'm just going to bank a move and switch out, because realistically, I can bank a move for free unless they decide to go for a Fire Punch, and I know a Fire Punch would not knock out. They bring in Golisopod, and this is just not an answer. I can now very, very freely take switch advantage, but if my opponent is double weak to Magnezone in the back, they can't afford to stay in with the Diggersby, because otherwise their Diggersby just gets much too low, and then they're still getting swept by Magnezone anyway. But now, I can just make a play for alignment with the Gligar, put the Diggersby onto my Araquanid, and Diggersby, it can never really do anything into Araquanid, so even without knowing the third, I'm feeling very confident that this is about to be the 5-0 set. So I fire off the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace is going to pick up the knockout. Opponent brings back in the Diggersby, and whatever was in the back was weak to Wild Charge. They resign, and that's our 5-0 set to 27-19. I do have a few final games, and we start off with the absolute worst case scenario. Leading into a Stunfisk, I throw 2 Volt switches, wait the turn, and catch a Mud Bomb onto my Araquanid. Stunfisk lead should basically be an auto loss, but I'm going to try and play my way out of it. So we have some energy on the Shadow Magnezone, we catch the Mud Bomb, they're now going to fire off the Discharge and bring in Dusclops. We're seeing both our problem Pokemon in the same team. This is really, really unfortunate. I fire off the Bubble Beam just to slow the roll of the Dusclops a little bit. Dusclops farming up a ton of energy. I'm just always going to be letting this go. This Dusclops is on Poltergeist, and they will pick up the knockout. Poltergeist means they're going to be very slow to get the charge moves, so I throw 3 Volt switches here as the Shadow Magnezone, and I'm just going to knock them cleanly out with the Wild Charge. They should be dry on the Stunfisk, so I should be good to throw at least 1 Volt Switch and then pivot out. So I bank the Wild Charge for later. In comes Gligar. In the back is a shiny Galarian Moltres, and this game actually somehow feels winnable. I'm up quite a bit of energy as the Gligar. I have the move banked on the Magnezone, so what I'm going to have to do is pretty straightforward. I'm going to have to grab both of their shields and then combo play with the Magnezone. If I can keep some health remaining on this Gligar and a shield up, then I should be in a winning position. So this is the moment. Will my opponent read the play? Aerial Ace grabs the shield. I snipe with the Mirror Shot, and they read it perfectly. What a beautiful read by my opponent. If I get that snipe, I just automatically win the game on the spot. Or if I read that my opponent will switch, anticipating the snipe and stay in, I also win. I think that this is realistically as close as I could make it for how many really, really bad Pokemon for my team this team had, and I will just resign the match. Hopping into the final match, another very tough opponent, but we get a pretty solid lead, Shadow Magnezone into Credilli. Well, on paper, this should be a solid matchup, but Credilli actually does win the zeros here, and that's just due to the fact that Credilli is able to debuff and put itself out of a range where Mirror Shot plus Wild Charge will KO. So Credilli is more than happy to play out the zeros here and take some kind of advantage into the later game. But I'm also pretty okay playing out this matchup as well, because I know that Magnezone will exit with energy, and that energy will probably be good into what they have in the back. So I'm very okay shielding the Magnezone. I am doubling down here on Magnezone. We are going to go for a full farm down. They pivot out into Dedenne, and I get to respond with Shadow Gligar. I am not anticipating that they're going to bait up a shield, so I will use my final shield here. Part of the reason why I liked Araquanid in the back, Araquanid obviously means that I am criminally weak to Dusclops. But what I liked about Araquanid is it's very good at playing even at a shield disadvantage because it's so monstrously bulky and it can debuff things. That just really allows me to use my shields on the other two Pokemon, which don't nearly have the same bulk as Araquanid. I full send the dig, it picks up the knockout, in the back is Lapras, and we are going to take home this win. I'll fire off the dig. Dig, they can never shield because I have a banked Wild Charge. The moment they no shield it, I just combo with a Mirror Shot. They can never afford to let this go. Even a Mirror Shot would do too much damage, and now they'll have to throw because they cannot Psywave down. And at this point, the Lapras has lost 3/4 of its health bar already. There's just no amount of damage they can do to Araquanid to win this game. So I bring in the Araquanid, and my opponent is going to resign the match. All in all, I did go positive with this team. As I mentioned, I peaked at 27-19 before having 2-3 sets to end the day. But this team, I really believe in Shadow Magnezone as a really cool anti-meta Pokemon. I think if I were to run this team again, I would probably try and find a way to build it slightly differently so that way I was less weak to Dusclops. Because I saw a lot of Dusclops in Corsola, and having two bug fast moves in the back really meant that anytime I saw those Pokemon, it was going to be a really tough fight. So all in all, I think Shadow Magnezone is actually very playable right now. Most of the ground types are not running ground fast moves, and an ability to lead into something like a Diggersby or a Clodsire and just bank a Wild Charge for free and switch out and have the ability to potentially snipe something down with it later in the game, I think is honestly really nice for Shadow Magnezone. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.